Hello and welcome to our Math 100B class. Today we're going to be discussing fractions, and as you know, fractions are always composed of two whole numbers, and they help represent a part. So this upper number is called the numerator, and the bottom number is called the denominator. These are We use fractions. They've been around for a very long time. In fact, they were discovered by the Egyptians about 3000 BC, and they've been very important because they help us describe a value in between our normal counting numbers. You know, we can go 1, 2, 3. Wow, it'd be weird. Imagine a world without any numbers in between. If you could only say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that'd be crazy. Anyways, that's the idea of fractions. In fact, fractions have been around even evident in the scriptures. Let's take a look. So here are just a few scriptures that have fractions in them. Feel free to pause the video and take a look at some of these and see if you can identify what fraction is being represented. There's Ether 15:33. There's Alma 13:15. There's 1 Kings 3:25. Genesis 41 verses 33 to 37, and also Doctrine and Covenants 29:34 through 37. When you're ready to resume, press the play button. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you found that interesting, all the fractions that are involved. My personal favorite one is definitely Doctrine and Covenants, where the Lord is talking to Joseph Smith, and he says, "Wherefore, verily I say unto you that all things unto me are spiritual, and not at any time have I given unto you a law which was temporal. Neither any man, nor the children of men, neither Adam, nor your father, whom I created." Which is interesting. So here he's talking about a law, and it's always been a spiritual law. It's always existed. And what law is he talking about? Well, take a look in verse 35. It says, "Behold, I gave unto him that he should be an agent unto himself. And I gave him a commandment, but no temporal commandment gave I unto him. For my commandments are spiritual. They are not natural nor temporal, neither carnal nor sensual." So we have agency. Agency existed well before this life, and it's something that a great blessing to us. In verse 36 it says, "And it came to pass that Adam, being tempted of the devil, for behold, the devil was before Adam, and he rebelled against me, saying, Give me thine honor, which is my power. And also a third part of the hosts of heaven turned he away from me because of their agency." Ooh, did you catch the fraction? How many people, what fraction was turned away from our Heavenly Father? Did you catch it? You bet. 1/3. That's a scary fraction. 1/3. A third part was turned away during the War of Heaven and did not have the opportunity to come to earth, have the opportunity that we have to be part of a family, to use our agency to experience the gospel and the joys of life. 1/3. That's a pretty impressive fraction, especially if you think of all the people that have existed on the world. A third on top of that didn't get to come. Okay, well, let's get to the math. So in this lesson, our goal is to work on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. Now, this is a subject that you've for sure seen before, and so in this class we're really going to work hard on working with calculators to help us learn these topics. You'll remember that when we had addition and subtraction, you needed to get a common denominator, and again, if you want to learn how to do this by hand, you're more than welcome to pull up some YouTube videos or stop by the tutor center, and they'd love to show you. But this is not essential on the test. We're not going to test you by hand. You'll be able to use a calculator, so we really want you to be able to do this in a calculator. And so that's what we're going to be working on here, is working with a calculator. So make sure, if you don't have a scientific calculator yet, now may be a good time to pause the video and run to your nearest store and pick up a scientific calculator, because we're going to want you to get good with that so that you'll be able to do really well on the first test. So I have here a calculator, and to do fractions in the calculator, you're going to use this button right here. It's the ABC button That right there does fractions for you, and that's going to be your friend for this section. So again, if I wanted to type in a fraction, for example, if I wanted to type in 3/5, I would type in 3, push the fraction, and then type in a 5. This would be the fraction 3/5. And so we can do addition with this. If let's say I wanted to do this problem here, 3/5 plus 2/7. To do that, I would simply go 3/5 plus 2/7 and push the enter button, and notice it gives me the answer. It does the common denominator and everything for you, and that's pretty sweet. The answer is 31/5. It also can 31/35. It also can simplify fractions automatically for you. For example, if we had the fraction 30 over 75. We know that this fraction can be simplified because the top and the bottom can be divided by 5. So notice the calculator will do that for you as well. If we go 30 and then do the fraction and 75 and push the enter button, it'll automatically reduce it for me. Notice that 15 actually goes into each of those numbers. And so the answer is 2/5. Your calculator will automatically always simplify fractions for you. Okay, so now it's your turn. Let's have you take out your calculators and see if you can work on these problems right here. What if we had 7/11 plus 2/9? I'll let you work on that problem. Here's another one. What about 4/5 times 2/5? And one more. Let's have you reduce this fraction right here, 14 over 56. Okay, go ahead and pause the video, take out your notebook, write these problems down, and use your calculator to help you solve those. Again, the purpose here of this class is to get you good at calculator work, and not necessarily doing it by hand. So give it a try, and if you need help, feel free to contact your teacher or a tutor. They also can help you with these problems. Okay, great. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to clear my calculator. To do this, I would go 7/11 plus 2/9. Again, this is a great button. If you're not using a scientific calculator and using a graphing calculator, it's going to be a lot harder. We'd encourage you to do a scientific calculator. So the answer there was 85 over 99. 85 over 99. The next one is a multiplication problem, so I'm going to do 4/5 times 2/5, and that gets me 8 over 25. Lastly, I can simplify fractions. 14 over 56. 14 over 56, I'm going to have it automatically simplify just by pushing the enter button. Well, that's just 1/4. How'd you do? Hopefully well. Let's give you a few more just to try. Hold on one sec. Yeah, let me write these up here. Try this one. Here we go. Let's go with 3/7 plus 8/9 minus 1/4. Ooh, that's 3 fractions in one. Give that one a try. And one more. Let's do 7/10 divided by 2/5. Go ahead and pause the video, write these down in your notebook, give them a try in your calculator, and then we'll check your answers when you push the play button. Okay, let's take a look here. On this one, I would just simply go 3/7, type it in, plus 8/9, and subtract 1/4. So we just did that operation. We get out, a pretty big number there, 269 over 252. 269 over 252. This is known as an improper fraction because the number on top is bigger than the number on bottom. So that's an improper fraction. If that ever happens, you can push the button, find the button on your calculator to convert it to a mixed number if you wish. On my calculator, I have to push the shift and then this button here, and it will convert it to a mixed number. So this is a mixed number. That's telling me that the answer is 1/17 over 252. So you can convert your fractions to mixed numbers in your calculator if you'd like. On the test, you may see it either way. because we do want you to be able to realize that a improper fraction or a mixed number, they're the same thing. So either way would be fine on the test. Let's take a look at 7/10 divided by 2/5. 7/10 divided by 2/5. I'm going to push the enter button there. Answer comes out to be 7/4. Again, we could convert that to to a mixed number simply by pushing this shift and this A to B C button here. I get 1 3/4. We probably could have done that by hand as well, just by seeing how many times 4 goes into 7. So 1 3/4 for that problem. Okay, let's try one more type of problem, and then we'll let you be. Okay, so what if we were to do 3 1/4 plus 7 1/8? These are mixed numbers, and we need to add those together. To do that type of problem, again, we can use this button here, the fraction button, 2 times to separate the fraction. So if I wanted to do 3 1/4, I would type in 3 and 1, and then I'm going to push it again to do 3 1/4. And then I could do plus 7 1/8. And you can simply add those that way. So I get 83/8. That's an improper fraction. I could convert it just for fun by pushing the shift button and then this, and it converts it to 10 3/8. So again, either way is fine to write it. On the test, it may be done either way. We want you to make sure that you can go back and forth. Let's have you try one of these just to make sure you're on the same page. Let's go 5 7/10 and have you subtract 2 15/16. Go ahead and pause the video, write this problem down in your notebook, and resume the video when you're ready to check it out. Minus 2 15/16. And that equals 221/80, or of course we could convert it as well to 2 61/80. Okay, well that's it for this lesson, working with fractions. We encourage you to use calculators in this class so that we can proceed quicker through some more important things that we'd like to cover. So if you are having issues with your calculators, make sure to stop by the Tutor Center or hop online and talk with a tutor to get some help on how to work your calculator for this test. The first thing we want to talk about when talking about decimals is place values. We all know the place values to the left of the decimal point. We have the ones column, the tens column, the hundreds columns, the thousands, the 10,000s, the 100,000s column, the millions columns, and of course you can keep going all the way to trillions and billions and quadrillions and so on. But in this lesson we're going to focus on the values to the right of the decimal place. You'll see that the first one is called the tenths, the next one the hundredths, the next one after that the thousandths, and then the 10,000ths. I always remember these because they've got a THS on them. Anything to the right of the decimal place has a THS, and it makes you spit just a little. You know, the tenths, the hundredths. A little hard to say. And so these are the columns that we'll be focusing on in this class. And it's important to know those because when we read a number, for example, 0.3, we call this number 3/10. Or if we had the number 0.64, well, that's 64 hundredths. We always say these decimal values with respect to their lowest value or their most far right place value. So for example, if I had 0.317, I would call this 317 thousandths. And that's how we say decimals when speaking in words. This can really help us as well because if we are able to say these right, if I can say 3/10 or 64 hundredths, it's going to allow us to convert these decimals to fractions whenever we want to, very simply. Let me clear the screen and we'll talk about that. Okay, so we like to convert decimals to fractions, and if we can say them correctly, it's very easy to be able to do this. So, for example, 0.3, to convert 0.3, I know when I say that it's 3/10. So to write that as a fraction, we would just write 3 over 10, 3/10. One rule is that however many decimal places you have is how many zeros you're going to have after the 1. So if I was converting the number 64 hundredths, I would write 64 over 100. Notice there's 2 decimal places, and because of that I'm going to write 2 zeros. Now this fraction simplifies more, and so we do always want to simplify our fractions. I can divide the top and bottom by 2, and I would get 32 over 50. Looks like I can still simplify that by dividing by 2 again. I would get 16 over 25. Great. What about 0.317? How would I write that as a fraction? Well, to do that, it's 317 over, because there's 3 decimal places, I'm going to put 3 zeros. 317 over 1,000. That's how we can convert fractions to decimals. Let's have you guys try some of these. Go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to give you some problems here, and right when I give you those, go ahead and pause the video and work on these in your notebook. See if you can convert these from decimals to fractions. Here's the problems we'd like you to try. 0.25, 0.7, and 0.317. Pause the video and convert these decimals to fractions. Make sure to simplify all the way down if you can. Okay, so how did you do? Let's check your answers here. So here I have 2 decimal places, so I'm going to write this as 25 over, and because there was 2 decimal places, I'm putting 2 zeros after the 1. We then could simplify this by dividing the top and the bottom by 25. That would leave me with 1/4. 0.25 as a fraction is 1/4. Let's take a look at this one. Here we just have 1 decimal place, so it would be 7 over 10. That's all you can do with that one. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So after this 1, I'm going to put 4 zeros. And then write in this number here, 3167. 3167 over 10,000. How'd you do? Hopefully you did well converting those decimals to fractions. Well, let's move on to the next part. Another thing we're going to need to be able to do is work with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with decimals. We did this in R2 with fractions. Now we want to be able to do it with decimals. When dealing with decimals, this is something that you probably learned before, and maybe you remember or maybe you don't, but what we're going to do really is just focus on, like we did with the fractions, working on this in our calculator. In your calculator, you have a decimal point, and you can do addition, subtraction, subtraction and division and multiplication. Another cool thing is that you can actually, on your calculator, you're going to want to find this F to D button, because you can convert any fraction to a decimal and any decimal to a fraction. For example, we just did 0.7. If I typed in 0.7, I could push this button and it would convert it to 7/10, which was our answer. And you can do this with any fraction. And so 0.22, for example, I could convert that. And that would be 22 over 100, if you remember. I'd push this button, and they gave me 11 over 50. Notice they all automatically simplified it. Your calculator automatically simplifies all fractions, which is really cool. For example, 25 over 100. I can do 25 over 100. That's 0.25. If I convert this fraction to a decimal, it says it's 1/4. So we can do all kinds of problems. We can do addition, subtraction. I can do, if I wanted to do this problem here, 3.716 times 2.044. This would probably take a little while to do by hand, and the calculator can do it really nicely. So we just would type in 3.716 times 2.044, push the enter button, and we've got it. Let's try another one. What about 1.76 minus 0.032? Well, to do this problem, we can do it simply in the calculator. I would just do 1.76 minus 0.032. Push the enter button, and we get our answer. You can even hit the F to D button to convert it to a fraction if you were asked to report the answer in a fraction. And so again, you can just push that F to D button as many times as you want, and it'll just go back and forth between fractions and decimals. So when doing decimals, let's use our calculator. Calculator is powerful at doing that. Let's go ahead and give you guys, go ahead and take out your calculators. Let's give you 3 problems to work on. Take out your notebook and write these problems down, and then fire them up in your calculator. Let's see if you get the same answers as I did for these. So let's have you try this problem here. Let's go 7.362 minus 4.199. We'll have you try that problem. Let's have you try this problem here, 1.62. Actually, let's go, this is 81.7 divided by 1.62. And let's try a multiplication problem, 3.7 times 3.7. So try those 3 problems. Pause the video right now, and you can resume it to see if you did them right. Okay, so how did you do? Let's go ahead and work on these problems here. I'd have 7.362, push the wrong button there, minus 4.199. Push the enter button. If you did it by hand, that's awesome, but again, there's no by hand requirement here with these. We want you to know how to do them in your calculator. You should have got 3.163. 3.163 is our answer there. Let's look at this one. Here on this problem, we'd want to do 81.7 divided by 1.62. Make sure you did that in the right order. We would do the number in the box divided by the number on the outside, and we get this number here. Woo, that's a pretty number. Let's go ahead and write that out. 5432, 5432. I'm going to write the whole thing out. 09877. I'm going to use this for our next example. And 3.7 times 3.7, 3.7 times 3.7. That comes out to be 13.69. Great, how'd you do?